Facebook,
Okay.
and then we'll talk to Nick and see if we want to do something to do with the mayors and things. But
Straight to the Facebook.
yeah, if the technology's there, then
Yeah, just make sure the audio's down.
But Nick, two, one, go ahead.
Hello, this is Mayor Tashara Jones. I use the she, her pronouns, and welcome to our next live stream from the Mayor's office. As we continue to build our administration and develop new policy, we plan to continue doing these every 2 weeks for the time being, so thank you for joining us today. First, let's talk about COVID-19. Earlier today, we announced new health orders that ease the mask requirement for the city and county after we received new mask guidelines from the Centers for Disease Control. In short, if you're vaccinated, you are not required to wear a mask. However, if you have not yet been vaccinated, masks are still one of the best ways to prevent you from contracting COVID-19 until you receive your shots. The vaccination rate in the city is currently around 38%, and we have to get those numbers up. So make sure you and your loved ones go out and get your vaccination at the Dome downtown, which is available 7 days a week, and typical hours are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., though some days may vary depending on events at the Dome. Parking is free on the lot at 6th and Cole, or if you take public transportation, you can request a free pass to come back and get your second dose. However, if you're homebound or unable to make it to the Dome, the St. Louis Fire Department can bring the vaccine to you. Call the St. Louis Area Agency on Aging at 314-612-5918. Last but not least, as we shift a little bit more towards a new normal, I encourage everyone to free themselves of the stigma of wearing masks. If you're vaccinated and still want to wear one, keep wearing one. I'm going to keep wearing one. If you are vaccinated and don't want to wear a mask, then don't pass judgments on others who still do. And we ask that you respect the policies of businesses who may choose to continue enforcing masks in their facilities. This pandemic is far from over, and we must still take precaution and be a part of respecting the autonomous decisions of others to wear masks. So if you have any questions, you can call the City Health Department at 314-612-5100. Next, let's talk about my new appointments. This week, I was proud to announce new appointments to my administration and to the vacant seat on the school board. I've appointed Nancy Cross as my Director of Operations. She comes from an extensive background working for labor unions. Most recently, she was the Vice President of SEIU Local 1 for over 20 years. I've also appointed Amber Sims as the new City Register. She's a former state representative in the 60th District of Missouri, who termed out of office only a couple years before I was elected to the Missouri House. And most importantly, she's my sorority sister. Lastly, I appointed Alicia Saunier to the Board of Education. This spot was left vacant after I appointed Adam Lane as my successor in the Treasurer's office. Alicia is an amazing community organizer and mental health advocate, and I'm excited to see what she can do as the newest member of the school board. Let's talk development bills and policy. As you heard, last week I vetoed 2 Central Corridor development bills containing tax abatements from the Board of Aldermen. I want to make it clear, I do not oppose development, but I do believe that the city has not been the best negotiator when it comes to handing out tax incentives for new developments. I have a new set of standards for whether I think developments will be beneficial to St. Louis and the communities that they are going to be built in. Number 1, does your project meet the but-for test? In other words, but for the offer of these incentives, would this development even happen? If your project can move forward with incentives, there's no reason why the city should be handing these out at the expense of our public schools and city budgets. Number 2, I'll ask developers whether they will consent to clawback provisions and ensure that the city gets its money back if the development winds up outperforming expectations. Number 3, I'll also ask whether the project will generate significant public outcomes for the city, as evidenced by robust community benefit agreements, or CBAs. CBAs can include, but are not limited to, affordable housing, green infrastructure, neighborhood amenities, new quality jobs that hire locally, and more, depending on the immediate needs around the development. You may have heard me say numerous times that I believe development should happen with communities and not to them. And I hope that with these new standards, plainly stated for everyone to hear and understand, we'll be able to begin to see equitable developments that benefit everyone who may be affected by them. Now, let's talk about our city jails. Since my visit to the City Justice Center and the Workhouse with Congresswoman Cori Bush and Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner, we've been working hard in making sure we follow up on the things that we saw and heard. First, I signed Executive Order Number 1, which in part ordered the Department of Corrections to send all complaints that have been filed since 2017 to the Civilian Oversight Board for review. That's still in progress. Public Safety Director Dr. Dan Isom has also been keeping tabs on updates to our facilities. Our office now receives daily briefings on the detainee population, the times that meals are delivered, as well as the progress on upgrades to the doors and locks in the CJC, which we found out hadn't been updated in well over a decade. We have also increased the frequency for which we spray for bugs and have been streamlining the maintenance necessary to keep our facilities clean and sanitary. I also held my first meeting with the City of St. Louis employees to talk about their needs and concerns. My first listening session was yesterday with a handful of corrections employees who expressed their ideas and concerns to a new employee feedback system we had set up. They were the ones who gave us the first-hand account of how the failing locks had affected their ability to do their jobs, especially when they're short-staffed. As we continue to work on consolidating down to just one jail in the City of St. Louis, we will continue to engage with employees so that their concerns can be addressed as well. You may have also heard that Corrections Commissioner Dale Glass willfully offered his resignation at the end of this month. In the interim, we have tapped Jeff Carson, the superintendent at the Workhouse, as acting commissioner until a more permanent replacement can be made. You may have also heard about some aldermen visiting the Workhouse for a surprise visit on Wednesday. While dignitaries like elected officials are allowed to perform visits like this unannounced, the Department of Corrections has a specific policy for the media. Chapter 1, Section 1, Subject 18, Part D says, it highlights the process that news media, including photographers and videographers, must perform certain things to receive permission in advance in order to ensure the identities of corrections staff and detainees are not revealed against their will. The last thing I'll tell you is that as a part of today, or as of today, our detainee population sits at 661 between both the Workhouse and the CJC. We've seen a major decrease in part because detainees are now starting to get their long overdue court dates and because of the movement of federal detainees. The CJC has a total capacity of 860, which means that we can close the Workhouse within the first 100 days and still be able to hold our current detainee population as well as low, as well as ensure that all corrections employees keep their jobs if they choose one in this facility. Coming up this Saturday, May 15th, at 10 a.m. We'll have the second meeting of the Stimulus Advisory Board. The Zoom info is published on the Stimulus Advisory Board section of the mayor's webpage on the city website if you'd like to tune in and hear their progress. We're also still accepting applications for jobs within my administration, so visit Tashara number 4 mayor.com/jobs to see what's still open. We are still in transition, but look forward to opportunities for city employees and residents to visit during open office hours. So keep a lookout for more information in the coming weeks. I want to say thank you to everyone who stayed engaged with your city government. We appreciate your patience, your grace, and your accountability while we continue to grow this administration and make decisions that we believe will make our city stronger and safer. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
We do have some questions. Okay, well first, Alderman Collins Mohammed today introduced a bill that would direct the City Recreation Division to begin a midnight basketball program at city rec centers starting next month. How do you feel about that?
I think that we should make sure that our rec centers and other centers are open, and schools are open during the summer for more activities for our children so they're off the street. And earlier this week, we also met with the superintendent to try to put together some plans so we can keep some buildings open along with the rec centers. I look forward to talking to not Dr. Muhammad, John Muhammad, Alderman Muhammad, about this plan because it definitely will lead to decreased crime on our streets if our children and young people have something to do.
During the campaign, you said that you had intended to have the city councilor's office review the administration's position on the parking revenue issue pending at the Supreme Court. Have you made any steps in that direction yet?
We have not made any steps in that direction yet. We just appointed our interim city councilor, Matt Moak, about a week ago. There are a few more pressing issues that are in front of us right now before that. So when we get our more permanent city councilor, I intend to go down that path and review that.
Some people have concerns about quote unquote defunding the police. Can you speak more to your budget amendments and what those budget amendments actually do?
Absolutely. I offered a budget amendment with the support of the comptroller and the chief of police to take $4 million out of unfilled positions in the police department. These positions had not been filled in decades. And we have also seen over time, since the year 2000, the number of police officers decreased by almost 200 since then. And so the $4 million that we are moving from one department to another, we're going to increase the Affordable Housing Trust Fund by $1.5 million. We're going to offer victim support services because oftentimes if we're able to intervene when crime happens with social work and other resources, we'll be able to hopefully decrease anything else from happening after that or any retaliation. Also, we'll hire up to 15 or more social workers embedded within several city departments. So we're going to push towards prevention. I think that we should be transforming our department to lead with prevention instead of this old arrest and incarcerate model. And the changes that we're making are actually going to help our officers, because when our officers are called to anything, they're called to respond to everything. And they may not always be equipped to respond. So we are trying to deploy the right resource to the right call. So when you call 911, you get the proper help that you need. And that may not always be an officer.
All right, some COVID-related questions. Mayor, what do you recommend for families with children under the age where vaccines are available?
So for children under the age where vaccines are available, I would recommend that you still stay vigilant and wear a mask and social distance. My son is 13, and he's scheduled to get his vaccine next week offered by a pharmacy in conjunction with his school. So if you have children between the ages of 12 and 15, I would recommend that you get vaccinated. Again, the Dome, they're going to be available at the Dome from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the hours will vary if there are any events. However, if you're under 12, I've heard that the FDA is still reviewing getting vaccinations for children under 12, and that may not come out until later on in the year. So I would say be vigilant and still follow the CDC guidelines and make sure that your children wear masks.
Does the new CDC guidelines mean that those who are vaccinated don't need to wear masks or socially distance at public gatherings, including at religious gatherings?
The new CDC guidelines say that if you are vaccinated, you do not have to wear a mask. However, if the facility that you are attending does have a mask mandate, you should follow the rules of that facility. But if you are not vaccinated, you still have to wear a mask. So the way that we get rid of your mask is go get vaccinated. And again, the hours at the Dome, the FEMA site, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
There's a concern about the CJC not having outdoor space for detainees to exercise and get fresh air. Are there plans to improve CJC and bring it in line with MSI's amenities?
At this time, I'm not sure if we can do that. The goal is to have one facility, and unfortunately, the CJC does not have outside, but they do have gyms on every floor, and that allows for some free time and rec time for the detainees.
All right. Let's see what else we have here. In your mind, who would be the accountability body for CBAs for developments?
That's a good question. So I would say the CBAs would be negotiated between SLDC and our Director of Policy and Development and that developer. Just like SLDC is currently now supposed to be accountable for making sure that we meet our goals related to minority and women business-owned contractors, I would like to see SLDC be the accountability partner on CBAs as well.
Okay, great. All right, that's all we have.
All right. Well, thank you so much.